You need to know the values of the Dynasty Fantasy Football trade market so you make the best moves possible for your Dynasty Fantasy Football team so you can build your team, get better. Today, we're going to look at 3 running backs. And if you're new to the series, we start from the top of ADP and we've been working our way down from RB1 to like around RB19 or whatever right now. And we're going to do that throughout the summer. And we pick 2 other jabroni running backs and we talk about them. We don't talk about whether these players are good and bad. We talk about the market. We talk about the prices we're seeing on the calculator and on real trades from the trade finder, and then go over what the market is thinking. That's something you're into. If you think that's going to help you out, hit that subscribe button right now because we're going to cover that all off season long, plus a ton of other Dynasty Fantasy Football content. But the first running back we're going to talk about today is a veteran. He's on a new team, but is very explosive. Can catch the ball in the backfield. Catch the ball in the backfield's huge for running backs, especially for their PPR value. And this guy's got a hype train. He's had it throughout his whole career. People love this running back. And we're talking about DeAndre Swift of now the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's wearing number 0 now. That gives him some points somehow. But he's also 24 years old. RB18. 58 overall in ADP as well. Last year had 4 RB1 weeks and 4 RB2 weeks. So valuable in 8 games last season. Has been plagued with injuries. On the Eagles depth chart, they got Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Penny, Boston Scott, Trey Sermon, Kennedy Brooks. But can he get the same usage in the passing game? Because you got Hurts there. He can bring it down and run with it. Also, you got some wide receivers there that can command some target share. A.J. Brown, one of the best wide receivers in the game. Devonta Smith, one of the best wide receiver twos in the game as well. Dallas Goedert, a solid tight end. And the passing volume is kind of mixed up there. So, this is a good lot of wide receivers. Jalen Hurts has been solid. And he doesn't need to check it down to his running back because he can make stuff happen. Going to the trade analyzer, though, looking at what the calculator on DLF is saying here, in 1 QB, it got him valued at the 106 range, and 2 QB around the 109. So if you're looking at all formats together and you just want to say a baseline value per this tool, it's saying about mid to late first. Mid to late first, baseline value. But we're going to look at real trades here off the trade finder, see what's going on. So first trade is a 2024 first, a third, and a fourth. Next one is James Cook straight up. Last one is just a straight up 2024 first. One thing is, we're not seeing many 1-for-1 trades. And we use 1-for-1 trades here because if you're using these big trades on both sides, then we're spending a whole video breaking down one trade. And this also has been a tell for me now that I've thought things through over the last few weeks, that if you don't have many 1-for-1 trades or a lot of these trades that are 1-for-1 or very sketchy, it's really a big indicator that this player's not hot on the market. They're not liquid. This is telling us that he's likely a hold in a lot of leagues. A lot of people dealt for him or made their trades away or for during the draft. Once the news hit that he wasn't going to be the Lions, or once the Lions drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, once he got traded, those moves happened. And now they're happy where they're at. They're standing pat. They're holding. And with the idea of him being held, the value might be worth higher than what it's worth per the market. That might be it. Looking at what we're seeing here, the deals have already been made. That being said, once we get closer into the season, August or so, into camp, as long as he's still healthy, his value will naturally go up on the trade market because now the true value is going to come because we're going to start seeing the projected point totals coming. You're going to see these games coming at you, and you're like, I might as well hold them. And then it's going to be harder for people to move them on the market. You see that a lot with a lot of veterans. People are going to start talking them up more. People are going to start looking at them. People are going to say he's value this, value that. That's just going to start coming up, and it's just going to drive the price up to some degree. Maybe 1%, maybe 5%, maybe 10%. But that is just a baseline fundamental here. Think about this. The best time to deal them, price goes up. Maybe preseason-ish, maybe early season-ish to get a couple good games. Best time to sell them is that time. Best time to buy them. Not really a good time. It looks like it's a holding pattern now. You can try, kick tires, see what happens. Maybe something in season happens, a lull in a few games, maybe you can get something done there. But right now, we got the price range on the market just looking like a hold. Calculator might be wrong mid to late first. I don't know if people are willing to pay that. That's probably what's starting the hold scenario here. 2024 first looks like it might be there, but a lot of people are not willing to be giving up like Marvin Harrison Jr. and company. Plus, we got like 4, 5, 6 good running backs projected to be in next year's draft, which means there's really like 2 or 3, but still it's projected, and that's a value that can be held on to for a bit. So I don't see people really jumping up the bit to really make those deals. But going to this next running back, we are going to see what the market's going to say about this guy, because a lot's going on with him. We got some legal issues. He's getting older. The situation has changed drastically over the last 6 months or so. We're talking about Alvin Kamara of the Saints. 28 years old. Just had a birthday. RB 32 in ADP. 98 overall. We got legal issues to worry about, but some people are starting to not worry about him due to how cheap he is in ADP for redrafts. You're going to start seeing that come up a lot more because I'm starting to see those talks. Signed through 2025, but contract hasn't out at the end of 2023. We're going to have to see what happens about that. Next year will be 29. It's going to be hard to keep a running back that age on the roster for so long, especially you drafted KJ Miller, you got Jamal Williams. It's going to be hard to do that. 4 RB1 weeks last year, 2 RB2 weeks. Not the best season, though, for him last year, even though he had 14.6 points per game. They drafted Miller there. That's a sign. Jamal Williams brought in. That's another sign. That's an insurance policy. But we're going to have to see what happens with these legal issues. Long term, we know it's not going to be there. He's a running back, and he's at 28 years old. We've seen these signs before. Going to the trade calculator, the analyzer, 1 QB. 1.11, the 111. Late first is what it's saying in 1 QB. 2 QB, 205. We have a disparity there. I don't believe the 1 QB one. I just don't believe it. I don't feel it. Going to the trade finder here, looking at these values of actual trades that happened. Doesn't mean they're correct with what deals they made either. It's just what happened and we react off it. Donta Foreman in a 2023 second. Rashee Rice, 308. Next trade, 2024 second straight up. 212 and a 305. 2024 seconds. Mac Jones and 2 QB. Darnell Mooney, 207. 2024 second and a third. So he's cheap. He is cheap. Second round pick range. Third round pick range. Third round and some change range. Somewhere around there. He's not super expensive. The 111 in the calculator is definitely wrong. I just felt it off the tongue, especially when I first saw it, looking at these trades. The second round pick is kind of hard to do too. It's kind of hard to do that too when you know the end is near, but you also know that this could be a guy that might not get touched legally, and you might see him get some touches this year, but you got some horses behind him as well that could push him down in production a little bit. You could see that. There's a lot of things here. Running backs are fragile, and you got an older running back now. Who knows? You want that a little cheaper. You're also seeing them a little bit hot on the market. Some deals are getting done, and people are getting creative with them when they're making these deals. I expect them to get a little bit hotter on the market as we get through the offseason. Yeah, you should see more trades go down. It should be more liquid. If you want them, you're going to want to catch them cheap. If you don't want them, well, you probably should have sold them prior because it's more than likely going to be on the cheap. So that's just it. It's just at that time. It's just at that time. He's going to be on the cheap no matter what. It's just at that time. So that's just part of the game. It's part of the fundamentals. Going to this next running back, he got hit with the wave. Looking at the fundamentals, it makes sense, but might be a value still in some situations depending on how your dynasty roster is constructed and where you're at. We're talking about Tyler Algier of the Atlanta Falcons. 23 years old. In ADP, 154th player off the board, RB 47, so he's free. Of course, because Bijan Robinson's the guy. Bijan Robinson's going to be the guy forever there. Forever, locked in and loaded, written in stone. Bijan. But when he had the opportunity, he had 3 RB1 weeks last year, 2 RB2 games. Trade calculator, he's valued as a late third, all formats. Trade finder for the real trades. multiple times dealt for 2024 seconds. I feel like that's too expensive for my blood. I feel like that's kind of high, but we saw that multiple times. But we're also seeing 2024 thirds. Puka Nakua and a 2024 third was one of them. Jarrett McKinnon and Tyler Conklin. Ty Chandler. Honestly, you're dealing him for cheap assets. You're trading him for cheap assets. He's a cheap player, a cheap asset, and do you want it? If I have Bijan Robinson and I just did my rookie draft, or I'm in the middle of my rookie draft, I paid up for him, I got my late third, early fourth, I'm going to see if I can cap that, just to see if I can get the handcuff, just see if it's possible to catch that on the cheap. Because if that happens, I know I got a guy here that can pound between the tackles, and I can hold value on that. Even if you don't have Bijan, you know if something happens to him, you know this guy has a history of pounded between the tackles and can hold some value. Maybe hold some touchdown value. Maybe he has some games where he scores a couple touchdowns, and that's how it's going to work. He has a couple games a year where he's fantasy relevant. Maybe that's more likely for best ball. Maybe that's something you want to look at if you're in best ball leagues. Underdog, Dynasty, whatever. Maybe that's something you want to look at because maybe they start moving the ball here and Bijan's getting most of the work and a few times a year they let Algier run it between the tackles. Maybe it's something like that. The market's telling me he's cheap. That's it. The market's just telling us that. Fairly liquid, not super liquid. No one's going straight up after him. The market was really hot prior to the draft. It's quiet now. It's all about Bijan. If I had Bijan, that's when I would want him the most. But honestly, around RB50 price tag, it's nothing to really talk about when you're in that range, honestly. So you either want them or you don't. But those are 3 running backs that we're looking at today on the trade market. Who you trying to get? Who you trying to sell? I want to hear that in the comments below. Maybe that'll give me some ideas for a video, help you out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.